Hello, everyone. Welcome to this course, MSW 5120, Social Work Research 1. Today's topic will focus on discussing evidence-based research, what evidence-based research is, the importance of evidence-based research, and how can we use evidence-based research to improve our services as social workers, those services that we provide to our clients, and what might be some obstacles to using research into our practice. So this is a recorded lecture, but let's think about some questions that you can ponder on. What is evidence-based research? Why is it important to use it in your practice? And how can research improve the services that social workers provide to their clients? And what might be some obstacles in using research in your practice? So let's ponder on those questions for a minute. And those questions will be answered in some way in the lecture today. So a brief summary overview of today's lecture. So today's lecture will focus on summarizing how social work practice and research have been developed and linked as the field of social work has progressed. Identify and describe the characteristics of evidence-based practice. Recognize various forms of alternative sources of knowledge. So if you are not using evidence-based research as a source of knowledge, the alternative sources of knowledge are logic, tradition, and authority. And we will identify when decisions and opinions are being influenced by these sources. And we will describe why scientific knowledge is preferable to alternative sources of knowledge. So let's talk a little bit about the history of evidence-based research. So starting, and this is specifically, I want to clarify in the field of social work. So specifically in the 1970s, the CSWE and the NASW, they spent considerable time and attention to research or to social workers using research utilization when serving their clients. So during this time and throughout history, practitioners have often felt that researchers do not understand the realities of practice. So while research is useful, especially evidence-based research, practitioners often feel that researchers do not have experience and that they do not understand the realities of their practice. But on the other hand, researchers also feel that practitioners do not value and that they do not use their research findings. So for that reason, in the 1990s, two social work research journals, including the Research on Social Work Practice and Social Work Research journals, they focused on bringing evidence-based practice research to practitioners. And they presented research in a way that practitioners would be able to understand and that they would be able to put into practice. So again, these two bodies, the CSWE and the NSW, have been working together to bridge this gap again between practitioners and researchers So the practitioners are able to use the research and integrate it into their practice. And so the researchers are able to deliver the research in a way that practitioners are able to use it. So what is evidence-based research? And it is often also called EBP. So EBP is a process in which the practitioner combines well research interventions with clinical experience and ethics and client preferences and culture to guide and inform the delivery of practice or treatments and services. So again, pay attention here. So what elements are they combining? They're combining their clinical experience, their ethics, clients' preferences, culture, as well as the research to, again, to inform the delivery of their practice. So good social work interventions are informed by evidence that are appropriate for the social work populations to whom they will be delivered regarding the diversity characteristics, past history, and experience feasible given to resources available, including the time, skill, space, and other resources, acceptable to the social work professionals in terms of values, beliefs, and ethics, and also acceptable to the recipients or clients. So again, take a look here. Evidence-based practice is not just the research that has been conducted, but as you see here, it includes the practitioner's expertise, the research evidence, and the client's circumstances. So these three elements are combined together, and this is what we called the EBP model. So again, it's not just the research evidence, but you need to take into consideration, how does this research apply to my clients? I need to take into consideration their personal characteristics, including culture, including past history, which could include trauma and past experiences. Practitioner's expertise. So what resources do I have? So maybe this research evidence practice is excellent and has worked great, but the resources that I have in my agency are different. So how can I adapt it to the resources that I have available? And again, it needs to be acceptable also to the social work profession. So this includes the values, beliefs, and ethics. So this is Strauss evidence-based model. So here it tells us that this model is a cycle. So we need to start off by asking a question, searching for an answer, critically appraising the information, integrating it into our practice, and evaluating how it worked in our practice. So let's go here into a little bit more detail. Again, so step one, asking a clinical question. So why do we do the things this way? So asking a question that you have related to your practice. Then you would, again, search in the research. So you would search in the literature for answers for your question. Then you would critically appraise the evidence and how does this research apply to my problem or to my question. So again, critically evaluating or appraising the evidence. Step 4, how can I integrate the results from the critical appraisal with practice expertise in the client's unique circumstances? So again, it's not just taking the research and applying it right away to your client. Before you apply it, you need to appraise how it applies to your personal practice, taking into consideration the resources, the values, as well as the unique client circumstances. So once you apply it, then you evaluate how the evidence-based practice worked in your own practice. How did it go? And then step 6, you can disseminate the findings into an article or conference presentation. And you can repeat again also, maybe another question may come up after that. So you may be asking yourselves, what is the significance of evidence-based practice? Why is it so important? The NASW urges us to use empirically based knowledge into practice. Also, the CSW8 mandates us as social work educators to prepare you, future social workers, to engage in evidence-based practice. Why? Because good informed decisions require knowledge, and your clients deserve the best practices. So let's take out, so if we're not using evidence-based practice knowledge, what are the alternative ways or alternative knowledge sources that we can turn to? So one of them is our logic, our tradition, or authority. Authority meaning someone in the position of authority. So let's think about some reasons why we should not use these alternative knowledge sources. So some beliefs are self-evident and logical, and some beliefs just make sense. However, logic can lead us to some beliefs that are just plain wrong. So logic and common sense have led us in the past to some costly errors. There have been some programs in the past that, again, have been based on logic, but at the end of the day, when they evaluate those programs, they do not have positive outcomes. And in addition, some beliefs are accepted in our culture, and they are generally not questioned or challenged. So these would be based on tradition. So again, these traditional beliefs may have been passed from one generation to another or throughout history. And we may say, oh, we do this program the way we do it, or we deliver this service the way we do it because it's a way that it has been done. However, unfortunately, traditional beliefs may promote stereotypes, and they may continue the oppression of some members of our society. So again, we may be perpetuating oppression without knowing it. The other source of knowledge, it's knowledge that comes from authority figures. This could include physicians, politicians, administrators in our agencies, or even professors. And unfortunately, people in authority are also subject to bias and limited experience. So again, Logic, tradition, and authority can affect our judgment and cause us to draw to erroneous conclusions and promote faulty stereotypes and generalizations about people. So there's often a wide disparity between what is generally believed to be true and what research has revealed. So why should we then rely on the scientific model? Because science is empirical, it strives for objectivity, produces provisional knowledge, employs a public way of knowing, and it employs certain rules, procedures, and techniques. Again, we should always combine the scientific model together with our own expertise and the client's specific needs and characteristics. As with everything, there are some limitations with evidence-based practice research, and this includes the lack of resources or the agency might use some different philosophy. So again, these may be some external constraints to you as a social worker. So you may not have that time or resources necessary to conduct the evidence-based practice research. So accessing empirical evidence is time consuming. Again, you may have lack of access to resources or high case loads, etc. And some evidence-based practice may be based on aggregated data, which means that it may not be applicable to your specific client or clientele population. So again, if it is generalizable and has good representation, but it may not be predictive of every individual. So those are some of the limitations. Another limitation is that some of them may not be done in the real world. So for example, efficacy studies involve controlled experimental conditions, and these include cancer studies, for example, on postmenopausal women. So again, this may not be done with real world conditions. So effectiveness studies, those do test the conclusion on more diverse world conditions. So we need to also take that into consideration. And we should also tap knowledge that comes from interdisciplinary interventions and not just specifically from social work. Again, thank you so much. I hope this lecture was helpful to you for this week. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.